Episode 63, All the Everything Podcast. I'm Billy. That's Tim. Tim, how are you today, sir? You doing all right?
I'm doing good. January is going to be a busy month for me. I got a lot of travel going on, so we're going to do some bulk recordings. This is one of those bulk recordings to make sure. Why, Billy? Because we never, ever miss an episode.
That's right.
So as long as you're awake by 5 a.m. on Thursdays, there's always going to be something there for you. And if you're not awake at 5 a.m., that's okay too. But if you start at 5 a.m., we're there for you. And we're there for you at midnight too. We're just always there for you.
That's right. Yeah, we will be there when you wake up. And it's always important to set your notifications to be notified whenever there is a new episode. And then just go ahead and set that automatic download as well while you're there. I mean, just the settings.
And also at night, when you put on Do Not Disturb, put the only thing that breaks through is a notification from All Day Everything Podcast.
That's right.
And that's it. I mean, your family too, if they have an emergency. But beyond that, it's got to be us and your family. That's all.
That's right. That's all.
We are your family now. All right, Billy, before I stop jabbering on, how you doing today? Anything new going on in your world?
I'm great. No, we just yesterday was the last day of Christmas break. And so the girls are back at school today. So we went to Birmingham yesterday to celebrate our last day, and we went to this really fun place called Activate. So interactive games, like you could just think of a huge room with just this LED floor and different lights pop up, and you have to run to the different lights. And there's
cool.
Laser games and all these type of things. You get to moving and grooving. The girls love it. So we did that.
Did you wear them out at least?
Oh, they were, yes.
Right,
we were like, we need to, because they're so used to sleeping in for Christmas break. And so I was like, we do need to wear them out so they can go to bed early, so they can wake up early and just get back at it.
What's sleeping in for them?
Oh, Chloe will sleep till noon if you let her.
Oh, really? Okay. She's got it going on already. Okay.
Yeah. And then Lily, who used to be like the 6:37, she'll do 10:30 if you let her.
Wow. All right.
But yeah, so that's so what we did. We did that and we went to our favorite restaurant on the face of the planet. It's an Indian restaurant called Silver Coin in Hoover, Alabama. So
you've talked about this before, I think.
My favorite. So we were in town, so we had to go eat there. So it was a really good day. It was a good way to end Christmas vacation. I know they weren't really excited about going back to school and homework and tutoring and all that kind of stuff happening.
Who is?
Yeah. So, but anyhow, we have an awesome episode planned for you today. And so I guess there's no better time than now.
Well, there ain't nothing to it but to do it. Are you ready, my friend?
You better believe it. Let's get into all the everything, y'all.
All the everything, we've got it all. We've got it all, small, big or tall. So grab your snacks, sit back, don't stress, cause Tim and Billy talk about the randomness. Formation Rome to UFOs, we'll take you where the weirdness goes. It's two guys talking way too loud about stuff that makes no sense, but we're kinda proud.
Well, welcome back to yet another amazing episode of All the Everything Podcast. As always, I'm one of your co-hosts, Tim Sawhook, and I'm joined by my best man, Billy, the guy who's wearing the short sleeves trying to show off the guns today. Parchman. Let's go, Billy.
Let's go.
People. Bring the gun show. Get jacked. All day, son. All day.
All day.
Anyhow, Billy, we are so far off topic today. Let's focus. Laser focus.
That's right.
Superman, laser eyes. What are we talking about today?
Oh, well, okay, y'all. So today is going to be one of those episodes that kind of sits with you. So, today is a true crime episode. It's our true crime part 3, but we are focusing on people's final words. And so, yeah, we're focusing on those final things that people said before they disappeared or died. Some are simple, some are heartbreaking, but all of them matter. And so with that said, with this episode, if you have young ones, there's going to be a lot of different trigger warnings with, obviously like death and murder and violence, school violence later on. So just wanted to kind of, prepare you. So this might not be the episode for you, and that's fine. We have 60 2 other episodes that you could listen to in its
At any
place.
time, go back.
Yeah. But today is we want to, just kind of dive into that true crime, but focus on people's final words.
Yep. Yeah. I mean, well said. And again, trigger warning if you're opposed to any of this kind of stuff, no problem at all. Come back next week. We'll have more crime for you and make it even more depressing. Hopefully not. We don't even know what we're doing next week.
Yeah, we haven't figured that out yet.
But yeah, anyhow, we hope you use the word enjoy. Like a lot of people love true crime and hearing these kind of stories, but we also always want to remember the people that were involved in these stories are real. So
Yeah,
we like to say that and give as much empathy as we can to the victims of these stories.
Absolutely. Well, Tim, do you want to go first today?
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, so on the night of January 2nd, 2018, Blaze Berenstain left his house from his home in Oregon County, California, and stepped into a version of the world that he would never let him return from again. He was 19, home from college on his winter break. A student at the University of Pennsylvania, Blaze was the kind of person people remembered easily. Funny, sharp, warm, the kind of friend who made you feel like you belonged all the time. He was also openly gay and Jewish. And in the days that followed, investigators would uncover a motive that made his final hours even more disturbing. He disappeared after meeting someone he knew, someone from his past, someone who had been waiting in the shadows of his life longer than anyone had realized. So let's get into the last hours. It started like nothing. A quick plan, a casual meetup, a late night decision made with the confidence of someone who has done this 100 times. Text a friend, leave a house, be back soon. Blaze had reconnected with a former high school acquaintance named Samuel Woodward, a young man who lived in the area. They agreed to meet that night. And there's a reason the timeline matters so much in this case, because in the beginning, there's only really one clue, one thing that really always survives the moment someone disappears, and that clue is the last text. The last communication, the final digital breadcrumb that proves a person was alive, right up until the moment they weren't. Blaze left home that night and got into a car, and then the messages stopped. No response, no explanation, no I'm on the way, no I'll be back soon. His phone went quiet in the same way so many phones go quiet right before a case becomes a case. And the next morning, he still hadn't returned, and the calm began to crack. That wasn't like Blaze. Blaze didn't disappear. So we're talking about the search portion of the story now. In the earliest hours of a missing person case, everyone clings to the same fragile hope that the silence is temporary, that the phone died, that the person fell asleep somewhere. And that's an easy explanation, right? That's the things we hope for. But then the hours stack up, and the optimism starts to rot and fade. Blaze's disappearance spread quickly through the community. Friends posted photos, people shared his information, volunteers searched, tips poured in on the phone line. The idea of Blaze being missing didn't feel possible to the ones who knew him the closest, which is exactly why it felt like this town was holding its breath. Because someone like Blaze who vanishes, it hits the nerve of everybody who's watching, because it's not just sadness, it's the sudden awareness that if it can happen to him, it can happen to anyone. And while the public searched outward, parking lots, roads, neighborhoods, the investigators began searching inward. They focused on the simplest question: who was the last person to see him alive? And the answer kept pointing back to one place: Borrego Park. So Borrego Park sits in Lake Forest, not far away from where Blaze lived. In the daytime, it's ordinary. Suburban trees, open paths, a place people can jog through or walk their dogs. But at night, parks don't feel like parks. They feel like edges, places where street lights end, where the sound changes, because places in the world who become quiet enough for something bad to happen without interruption. It was here, investigators believe, Blaze met someone named Samuel Woodward, and it was here, prosecutors later said, that Blaze's final night ended. And it would be here, days later, where the truth finally surfaced, not an answer, but as a body. And here's we talk about the discovery. For 8 days, Blaze's family lived in uncertainty. 8 days of searching, 8 days of checking phones and waiting for phone calls, 8 days of watching strangers comb through the area, like their effort alone could pull him back into the world. And then on January 10th, 2018, the case shifted. Investigators found Blaze Bernstein's body in a shallow grave. in an area in or near Borrego Park. And that was when the moment in the story had changed shape completely. Missing became murdered, hope became aftermath, and what investigators learned next made the brutality very, very much impossible to ignore. Blaze had been stabbed repeatedly, not once, not twice, but many times, an attack so violent it left no doubt that this was not a crime of panic. This was a crime of force, of intent, of rage. The moment Blaze was found, the search for him ended, and the hunt for a killer had started to begin. Their immediate focus was the first days after the bodies discovered are like a flood. Every hour matters, every minute matters, every piece of evidence is completely fragile. Investigators returned to the earliest known timeline. So they retraced where Blaze had been, who he had contacted, who he had trusted, and within that time frame was a name that refused to disappear, and that was Samuel Woodward. Woodward had met Blaze that night. He was connected to the place where Blaze was last known to be, and soon investigators said they had physical evidence linking him to the crime. The details of how law enforcement built this case would unfold over time, but the core reality was this. It didn't take long for them to believe they weren't looking for an unknown attacker. They were looking at someone Blaze already knew. Within days, Blaze's body had been found. Samuel Woodward was arrested, and for a moment it seemed like the case would follow a familiar arc. Suspect arrested, trial scheduled, justice served, right? But then investigators uncovered something that had turned the murder into something more disturbing than a personal crime. They began to see it as an ideological violence, a killing rooted in hate. This is when the darker motives emerged right here. As the investigation dug deeper, prosecutors and investigators began trying Woodward to extreme ideology. They would later tell a jury that Woodward had been influenced by neo-Nazi beliefs and was anti-LGBTQ hatred. And then the case began to shift again, this time in a category that feels colder and wider and far more dangerous. Because if this was a hate crime, then Blaze wasn't killed for something he did. He was killed for who he was and what he was. And that changes everything. The kind of motive isn't impulsive. It's a worldwide belief. It's a belief system, a decision. And for Blaze's family and for the community watching this unfold, the details carried a new kind of terror. Because it meant Blaze just didn't encounter violence. He encountered someone who believed he deserved it. And this is where we get into the last text. Years later, during the long and delayed path toward trial, attention returned to the same thing everyone had clung to in the first days, Blaze's final messages. Because there's something unique, haunting about the last communications in a true crime. Not because they always contain clues, because they mark a moment when everything was still normal. The last text is often mundane or casual or incomplete, and then it ends. In Blaze's case, coverage around the trial revisited his last communications in the digital timeline that helped establish his final movements, including messages referenced during the legal proceedings. The final communications mattered because they anchored the timeline to reality. They established that Blaze went to meet Woodward. We know this. They established the last known window of time where Blaze was alive, and they established how quickly everything went completely quiet. And then in modern crime investigations, texts are more than words now, right? They're timestamps, they're proof of life. And they were last visible thread that connects a person to the world right before the world loses them. So here we are on the slow grind of justice, as they call it. Blaze was killed in 2018, but justice in the case did not come quickly. The legal process stretched for years. Delays, hearings, arguments, and the complicated task of proving motive at the level required for a hate crime enhancement. Time passed, Blaze's family waited, the community watched, and the case remained suspended in that awful in-between space where a suspect exists, but closure does not. Then, in July of 2024, so this is 6 years later, July of 2024, the case reached a defining moment. Samuel Woodward was convicted of first-degree murder, and the jury also found him guilty of a hate crime enhancement. That detail really mattered, because it wasn't just a conviction, it was official recognition that Blaze was targeted because of who he was. Woodward was later sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. And the legal story ended there, but the emotional story didn't. It never does. Some murders feel random. This one doesn't. This one feels intimate in the worst way possible. Because Blaze wasn't kidnapped. He wasn't taken from a parking lot by a stranger in a van. He walked into the night to someone really familiar in his life, someone he recognized, someone he believed was safe enough. And that's what makes it linger in the mind like a bruise you keep touching, because it forces a question every listener feels in their chest. How close can danger be before you actually see it? How well do you really know the people you once knew? And what happens when hate isn't that loud, but when it's quiet and patient and waiting for the right moment? Blaze Bernstein's case is a tragedy, yes, but it's also a warning disguised as a story. A story that begins with a late night meetup with a few digital breadcrumbs, and it ends in a park where the lights stop, with a boy who never made it back home, and a silence that started with the last text and never truly ended. And that's the story and murder of Blaze Bernstein.
God bless.
I know, I have such gut-wrenching pain for the family reading this. Like, I read it. It's so different, Billy, when we do the research on these. Because I read this story probably like 2 times last night, skimmed it, reread it again this morning. And it doesn't hit as much until you put this, like, the story in front of you and you're reading it out loud. It just really hits you in such a hard way.
That is heartbreaking. Did they say what his actual final words were, like from the text?
He texted one of his friends, "I'm leaving the house and I'll be back soon."
I'll be back.
And that's
a
the
normal
last thing.
text.
Just a normal text.
We've texted that 100 times. You know,
it is. And that's the crazy thing that they talked about in the research here for the story, is that every text is just a normal text until it's not, right?
Right.
And every text is just ordinary and mundane until it's not. And everyone looks at it more with scrutiny and thinking, oh, I wonder what this meant, or God bless him, he didn't know what he was walking into.
Yeah. Yeah. And that just goes with not even like with murders or anything like that, but just like in life itself.
Yeah.
Like if you have like I remember my dad's last text to me was, "Hey, it's snowing outside." And I said, "Oh, wow." And that was our last text. And so that's something I will never forget. You know, it just kind of sits with you as far as, you know, you think your last communication with somebody before they pass away, even if it's not in an extreme kind of, you know, scenario, just a normal, you know, it stays with you. So,
yeah, I mean, God bless these families.
Yeah.
Like some of the stories that I researched going into this, not all of them have an ending like this. Like, not every time there's somebody is found. Sometimes they're just gone.
Yeah.
So at least with their family, that they had a little bit of closure, not the answers they wanted, but they're not just sitting there wondering, where is Blaze? Where's my son?
Right.
And so for that, I'm thankful that they have that. But
absolutely,
I really wish they did
have that closure. Yeah. God bless. Yeah.
What is the first story that you have for us today?
Okay. Well, we're going to be learning more about Laci Peterson and her last words. It's December 24th, 2002, Christmas Eve. In Modesto, California, the morning feels ordinary, calm, familiar, the kind of morning that never announces what's coming. Laci Peterson is 27 years old. She's 8 months pregnant. Her son, Connor, will arrive soon. Christmas dinner is being planned. The house is ready. Life feels settled. That morning, Laci wakes up in her home, and her husband, Scott Peterson, is getting ready to leave. He tells her he's going fishing at Berkeley Marina. Laci plans to walk the dog. She plans to finish a few things around the house. Nothing feels rushed. Nothing feels wrong. She goes on the walk with the dog, and before Scott leaves the house, she leaves a voicemail. "Hey, sweetie, I'm at the park with the dog. I'll see you when I get home." Those are the last known words of Laci Peterson. At the time, there is nothing unusual about them. They're warm, they're casual, they're familiar. The kind of message that you barely think twice about. But those words will become permanent. Because Scott Peterson returns home that afternoon and Laci is gone. The dog is found wandering nearby, still wearing his leash. Laci's purse remains inside the house. Laci's car is still in the driveway. The home looks undisturbed. As the afternoon turns into evening, concern grows. Police are called, friends and family begin searching, neighbors join in. Laci's disappearance spreads quickly in the community. Scott speaks with investigators. He tells them the same story that he told others: fishing, home, nothing else. In public, Scott appears composed. He answers questions. He gives interviews. Some described him as controlled. Others describe him as distant. What stands out is not panic, but restraint. As days pass, attention intensifies. Investigators learn that Scott had been involved in an affair with a woman named Amber Frey. What she tells police changes everything. Scott had told her that his wife is gone, that this would be the first Christmas without her. And he said this to her before Lacey disappeared. The case shifts. Lacey's face appears everywhere. Her smile, her pregnancy, her voicemail. That voicemail is replayed again and again. Hey, sweetie. There's no fear in her voice. There's no sense of danger. Only the assumption that she will be back again soon. Weeks turn into months. And then in April of 2003, investigators received some devastating confirmation. Remains are discovered along the shoreline of the San Francisco Bay. Through careful examination, authorities are able to identify them as belonging to Lacey and her unborn child, Connor. The location matters. It is near the area where Scott said that he was fishing on Christmas Eve. The case moves to trial. Persecutors argue that Scott murdered Lacey and ended Connor's life, then placed their bodies in the bay. They point to the affair, the lies, and the timeline. The defense argues that there's no direct physical evidence tying Scott to the act himself, no eyewitnesses, no confessions. The jury listens for months. In 2004, Scott Peterson is found guilty of first-degree murder of Lacey and second-degree murder for Connor. But one thing never changes. Lacey's last words. They're not dramatic. They're not prophetic. They're not a warning. They are ordinary. Hey, sweetie, I'm at the park with the dog. I'll see you when I get home. They're words spoken by somebody who expects a future, who believes the day will continue, who assumes she is safe. Lacey Peterson did not know she was saying goodbye, and that may be what made her final words so haunting, because they remind us that tragedy doesn't always announce itself. Sometimes it arrives quietly on Christmas Eve through a voicemail meant to say, "I'll see you soon," and she never did. God bless.
Anybody out there who's followed any kind of news or true crime knows this story. You know, there's been countless shows done about it and inside interviews from Scott Peterson from jail. I mean, it goes on and on and on. And it's just such a devastating, horrible story. I mean, I remember when this was on the news when it first happened. It was just nonstop coverage of this.
Yeah.
Do you remember that as well?
You know, actually, I don't. But I was
okay.
I was in college, deep in college at that point.
So you weren't sitting down watching the news every morning?
We didn't have the news and cable and all that kind of stuff back in the day,
Yeah.
and the internet wasn't. But you know, kind of just doing research and stuff. I feel it, man. I feel it.
And her final words were what again?
Hey, sweetie, I'm at the park with the dog. I'll see you when I get home.
Oh, jeez. Again, like we talked about at the end of my story, these mundane words now are haunting.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. God bless.
Yeah, I feel like that's even worse than like there's somebody in the house, you know, like it's just
Right.
at least you know at
And-
that like how to react, but you hear this and it's just I'm at the park with the dogs. I'll be home
I'm at the
soon.
park. It's just an ordinary text. It's just,
Yeah.
yeah. God bless.
Whew, man, these stories. Hey, stories.
I'm telling you.
Well, this next story that I have is one I had never heard before. It wasn't
Okay.
it wasn't like major news or anything. So let me get into it. There's a lot of details in the story, but again, it's not super, super long. At 11:47 p.m. on October 12th, 1989, Lydia Harper's phone sent the same message to two people. Her sister, Dana Harper, and a longtime friend from college. They don't ever really mention her name. It was 3 words: haunting, scary, and left people wondering what was going on. And those 3 words were, "I'm not alone."
Oh,
No.
gosh.
I know. No punctuation, no context, no follow-up, and within minutes, Lydia Harper would vanish without a trace. So Lydia was 31 years old and lived alone in a small town of Hollis Ridge, a quiet place built around tall trees, old buildings, and the kind of community where everyone appears to know everyone. She was a freelance designer, organized, consistent, and very careful. Friends described her as someone who kept her world controlled, routines, lists, safety habits, and a cautious approach to any strangers. But the message didn't match the Lydia they knew. Both recipients tried to call her back immediately. Calls went directly to voicemail. Texts were delivered but never read. Lydia's location briefly appeared on a shared app near a stretch of highway outside Hollis Ridge, then went dark, with the words saying "location no longer available." By the next morning, Dana and Lydia's friend drove to Lydia's apartment. I think it's really weird how they never mentioned the friend's name. Just putting it out there.
Yeah.
Anyhow, so they drove to Lydia's apartment. The first thing that a sign that something was wrong was simple. The door was completely unlocked. And as we mentioned before, she was completely into habits, routines, and safety habits. Lydia's door was always locked. She constantly did that. So inside the apartment looked almost untouched, neat, quiet, normal. But that's what made it very unnerving to them. There were no overturned chairs, no broken glass, no obvious signs of struggle. Her purse hung on the back of a chair. Her shoes were lying neatly on the entry coming in. On the kitchen counter sat a cup with faint lipstick mark, as if Lydia had just taken a drink and stepped away. But the subtle details surfaced, the kind of details that don't announce themselves until someone knows the person who lived there. The bedroom nightstand drawer was open. Her phone charger was missing. In the bathroom, her toothbrush was wet, and there was a smell. Not strong enough to fill the apartment, but sharp enough to catch the attention of anybody who noticed it. That smell was bleach.
Oh.
Not the faint scent, I know, right? Not the faint scent recently like someone cleaned their countertop, more like the lingering trace of something wiped down intentionally. Dana then called the police immediately. At first, it unfolded like many missing adult cases do. No forced entry, no visible evidence of violence. Lydia was adult, legally allowed to leave and go anywhere she chooses. But Dana provided a detail that shifted the entire investigation. Lydia had mentioned meeting someone that night at the Echowood Inn. It's a lodge-style hotel just outside of town. She said it was a client meeting, just totally for work. So, let me tell you about the Echowood Inn. That was the kind of place that people would disappear on a weekend getaway. A stone fireplace, warm lights, thick wood beams, you can see it. Smell of pine that lingered in the lobby. Not the setting anyone expects to be connected to a disappearance. When Dana and Lydia's friend arrived and said Lydia's name, the clerk behind the counter didn't look confused. She looked uncomfortable. Police had just asked for security footage. So in a small black office, the clerk pulled up the camera feed from the lobby. At 11:33 p.m., Lydia Harper walked into the inn. She wore a tan coat, her hair was down, her posture was tense, shoulders slightly raised, movements controlled, not relaxed. She didn't appear intoxicated, she didn't appear lost, but she didn't appear comfortable either. Several seconds later, another person entered right behind her, a man. Tall, dressed in a dark jacket, baseball cap pulled down low. What stood out immediately was he didn't walk beside Lydia like he was a date or a friend. He stayed just far enough behind her to avoid connection, yet close enough for following her. The footage showed Lydia speaking briefly to the clerk at the desk. Lydia shook her head quickly, as if refusing to say something out loud. The man lingered by the fireplace, looking down at his phone. Then Lydia turned toward the exit. The man moved at the same moment to the door, like he was guiding her. Lydia followed him outside. The footage switched from inside the lobby to exterior cameras. So Lydia and the man stood near Lydia's car. The man gestured toward the road repeatedly, suggesting Lydia should get in and leave. Lydia remained still, arms crossed, refusing to move. Her body language read like resistance, but not compliance. For a brief moment, it looked like an argument. Then something happened that altered the case completely. Lydia's attention snapped away from the man, but toward the dark tree line near the edge of the property that was unseen on the camera. Her face changed. Not fear, not panic, but recognition. Then, a second figure emerged from the shadows, a woman wearing a long coat, moving with purpose like she belonged there. The moment Lydia saw her, Lydia's posture softened, just slightly, the way people physically relax when they see someone they think they trust. The man's reaction was immediate. He stepped backward quickly, as if the woman's presence changed the rules of the situation completely. He retreated away from Lydia and out of the camera's view, leaving the scene completely. Then the woman approached Lydia. Lydia turned with her, and together they walked toward the tree line. Not running, not resisting, not stumbling, just walking together. They disappeared into the darkness beyond the camera's range. The clerk stared at the screen and quietly identified the woman. That's Maris Dell, an employee of the Echowood Inn. Maris Dell was located and questioned later that day. What stood out to investigators was not only what she said, but how she said it. Maris did not appear surprised by the questions. She did not appear nervous. She did not appear confused. She was calm, almost composed in a way that felt rehearsed, like a little too rehearsed. Maris acknowledged she knew Lydia Harper. She stated Lydia came to her willingly. She did not explain why Lydia would know her. She did not explain where Lydia went. She offered only one unsettling statement. Lydia finally understood that she wasn't safe anymore. Maris Dell detained, but investigators had no physical evidence linking her to the crime. So, no confirmed struggle, no recorded assault, nobody, no phone recovered. Within a day, she was released. Then, Maris Dell disappeared, completely vanished. By that night, the case had shifted from a missing person to a possible abduction, with multiple unknowns: an unknown man, a missing inn employee. Lydia Harper's phone, which remained silent, was completely gone. Dana and Lydia's friend returned to Lydia's apartment with the police's permission to search for anything that might explain Lydia's connection to Maris Dell. In Lydia's closet, behind a row of coats, they found a shoebox shoved deep in the back like it was never meant to be discovered casually. Inside were old photos, newspaper clippings, and a worn notebook. And it said, "If I ever disappear again, it's because they found me." The word "again" reframed everything. Lydia had not simply vanished once before in her life, but she believed she had been hunted before. Because the notebook was not a diary, it was a record. It had names, dates, places, license plate numbers. It's the kind of list someone keeps when they believe they are being watched, or when they are tracking a pattern that no one else noticed yet. Near the end of the notebook was a simple list entitled "People Who Know." 3 names were written on there: Dana Harper, Lydia's friend, and Maris Dell. A phone number was written beside Maris Dell's name, and that number matched a missed call Lydia's friend had received months earlier. An unknown number, ignored at the time, now attached to a name. Dana believed Lydia had been preparing them, not to find her, but to understand why she had been taken. Then came the second wave of messages. At 2:06 a.m., less than 24 hours after Lydia had vanished, Dana's phone buzzed. A message from Lydia's number. Lydia's friend, who we still don't know, received one as well. The messages were short, indirect, and designed to fracture trust. Dana was told not to trust Lydia's friend. Lydia's friend was told not to trust Dana. They both received the same message again: "I am not alone." And then, "Neither are you." It's like, what the hell is going on here?
Oh my gosh.
I know, right? Investigators later described these texts as manipulation through isolation, a tactic used to disrupt coordination between the people searching for the truth. So the timing of the messages, sent both the recipients at nearly the same second apart, suggested that someone had access to Lydia's phone still. It was intentionally targeting both people closest to her at that time. Then the phone buzzed again. These words: "I see you." Minutes later, Lydia's friend received a photo message, and it was dark and grainy, taken from a low-light environment, but it was unmistakable. It showed the inside of Lydia's apartment, taken from the doorway. And in the corner of the image, partially hidden behind the wall, was a figure, someone standing still, watching. The timestamp indicated it had been taken and sent in real time. If the photo was authentic, it meant one thing: whoever had Lydia's phone had been near her home, possibly inside it, after her disappearance. The discovery created a terrifying possibility. Lydia's appearance wasn't limited to the inn. It extended to her personal space. Her home had been entered, observed, possibly cleaned, then weaponized. Investigators returned to the apartment to re-examine it. The bleach smell reported the day before was noted again. Whether it was connected to evidence removal or attempt to destroy trace materials or simple psychological intimidation, it remains undetermined. The unknown man captured on the camera outside the inn was never conclusively identified. He retreated quickly when Maris Dell appeared, suggesting he either feared her, recognized her, or had been instructed to disengage if she arrived. Some investigators believe he was a decoy, only used to guide Lydia into position. Others believe he was an intermediary, not realizing that he was part of something larger. But the most haunting detail remained Lydia's demeanor on camera. She had not appeared to be forced or manipulated towards Maris Dell at all. She appeared to recognize her, actually. And she went with her willingly, which raised the darkest question in the case. If Lydia wasn't dragged away, then what did she believe Maris Dell represented? Safety or inevitability? Lydia Harper has never been found. Maris Dell vanished after her release and remains missing. Lydia's phone has never been recovered. And the last confirmed evidence of Lydia's voice is those 3 words: I'm not alone.
Not alone.
To Dana, it sounded like fear. To investigators, it sounded like a distress signal. But in the context of what came next, Lydia recognizing Maris, going with her willingly, the notebook suggesting a past disappearance, and the deliberate text that followed, the messages took on another meaning. A warning, not just of danger, but of presence. Not with, I'm with someone, but they're here. And if Lydia was right, she wasn't the only one who was being watched. Lydia Harper's case remains open to this day. Nobody has ever been found. No confirmed sightings, no verified phone activity since October 14th. Maris Dell had appeared after being released. The unidentified man from the inn footage has never been named. What investigators can't explain is what haunts the case the most. Lydia did not look forced. She looked like she recognized who she was with. And a year later, this is the craziest part to me. A year later, a plain envelope arrived with no return address. Inside were 3 words: I'm not alone. No signature, no proof, just a reminder whatever happened to Lydia didn't end when she vanished.
Oh my gosh.
This story is insane.
Yes.
It doesn't almost seem real, but I can verify it is a real story. Yeah, but like there's no end to it. Who was the guy at the end? Who was this lady Maris who just disappeared? And at the very end, they get that letter. It's probably
why they
from
keep
the
messing
killer.
with them. Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know.
Oh my goodness.
This one kind of
Wow.
terrified me a little bit.
No,
Oh,
that's
I'm not
terrifying. That is
alone.
terrifying. What in the world is going on?
And like that's what I was referring to at the very end. We're talking about Lacey Peterson. Is like at
Mhm.
least we knew
Exactly.
killed.
There was
They found
closure.
her.
Yeah,
There was some
there was
closure there.
closure.
Same thing with the Blaze case. But with
Mhm.
this, it's just open ended.
And then there's still things happening, still ripples and stuff.
Yeah. And why don't they name her friend?
Right. I wonder if she's under some kind of investigation and they can't release that name. I don't know.
Oh, that's true. That's true. That always bugged me when I was doing the research for this because this was actually the first story that I had researched. And at first, I thought this was some kind of like creepypasta story or some fake story made up on Reddit.
Mhm.
But I found the real story, and it just some of the craziest things are the realest ones.
Yeah.
And I just couldn't imagine getting a text from one of my best friends that said, "I'm not
no,
alone."
No, I'm not alone. Oh my
Especially a
gosh.
female, right? Especially
exactly.
a female. Bill, you probably get those texts from Michelle in the bathroom. Says, "I'm not alone," because both the girls are in there trying to
That's
get on the
very
door. She sends that final text, "I'm not alone," and you're like, "I'm sorry."
And she did yell at me the other day. She's like, Billy. When she says Billy, I'm like, oh my gosh, because she never
Oh.
says my actual name. And so I'm like, what? And she's like, your daughter is trying to get in the bathtub with me. It's like she doesn't ever get to soak in the bathtub. She just wanted 15 minutes to soak. We had this conversation. I didn't realize Lily tried to sneak in.
Oh my gosh.
I'm like, Lily, leave her alone. Give her 15 minutes by herself.
Dear God. So yeah, if you ever get a text from Michelle that says, "I'm not alone," don't
it's
assume
Lily.
she's been kidnapped. It's just because your daughters won't leave her alone.
Exactly. Exactly.
But taking all joking aside of it, it's just a scary, sad story, man.
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
Well, I'm done reading my crippling, sad stories today.
Oh.
Billy, bring us home, sir.
Okay. Yeah. This story. Oh no. Okay. So this story actually means something to me personally. Remembering this story changed the world, basically.
It did.
And when we were kind of throwing out the topics and kind of focusing more on the final words, the final word of this young lady changed the world, changed people's lives. And so, okay, I'm gonna try to get through this. Okay, it's April 20th, 1999. That's a day that I vividly remember. Littleton, Colorado. True crime stories often begin the same way, with a normal morning. Columbine High School opens its doors. Students arrive, lockers slam, teachers prepare lessons. No one knows that the ordinary is about to completely disappear. Cassie Banal is 17 years old. Before she was ever a headline, she was a person, a daughter, a friend, a teenager who had already walked through darkness and came out changed. Cassie's faith matters here. She did not grow up with an easy, comfortable belief. She struggled. She questioned. She searched. Her journals reveal pain, confusion, and a longing for something more. And then she found Jesus. Not as a tradition, not as a rule book, but as a relationship. Her faith became personal, chosen, something that she lived openly, imperfectly, but sincerely. On that morning, she goes to school like any other day. There's no sense of finality, no goodbyes that feel different, no moments that tell her something is coming. Shortly after 11:19, violence erupts in the school. I will not say the names of the attackers. This is intentional because naming them gives them recognition. Recognition becomes notoriety, and notoriety becomes legacy, and they do not deserve any. This story is not about them. It's about Cassie. As the attacks unfold, students run. Some hide, some freeze. The school library becomes one of the center points of the terror. Cassie is there. She hides beneath a table. In that moment, fear surrounds her. Chaos fills the room. Death feels close. And then one of the attackers approached her. He asked her a question. Do you believe in God? Cassie answers, yes. And a gunshot follows. That is Cassie's final word. A single word, clearly spoken without hesitation. True crime often focuses on the final moment as it defines everything. But Cassie's final word did not come from nowhere. It came from a life that was already shaped by faith. Her parents later spoke about the transformation they witnessed in her, the peace, the conviction, the way she talked about Jesus, the way her heart had changed. She wrote about wanting her life to count, about wanting to live for God. And in her final moment, she did. This episode is about final words, but it's also about preparation. Because faith like this doesn't appear under pressure unless it's already been formed in private. Cassie didn't become brave in that moment. She already was. This story does not remember the attackers. It does not repeat their names. It does not give them space. Instead, it remembers a 17-year-old girl who was asked the most important question of her life, and she answered it honestly. Yes. Yes to faith. Yes to Jesus. Yes to the belief that she had already chosen long before that day. Her voice was silenced on April 20th, 1999, but her final word still speaks, and it always will. Whew. Okay. So
Does
this day changed. It shattered like the glass for all of us, like a safety, right?
Yeah.
And there was a ripple of violence after this. This happened. Like I remember days after this shooting, being in high school, and there was a threat against our school. And so they brought us all outside because the school was supposedly going to be attacked. And so they brought everybody outside. And then my teacher took us, and this is just days after all of this happened. took us and hid us in the woods. Like we were literally in the woods by the school,
Yeah,
hiding.
chills.
This event changed the world, but her testimony, her faith, still speaks. What is this? 2026 now? This was in 1999. I remember a couple years later, after this happened, I was a senior in high school. Her parents brought the crosses of Columbine, a cross for every kid that died that day, to our school, to our public school, and shared her story and her faith to our school. They were able to travel the country sharing what she said. Yes. And that will always stay with me. And her story of faith inspires. And, kind of when we were talking about final words, this story, like at first I was like, I can't share this story. Like it's just too much. And then I just got to thinking about it. And then I just was like, I have to. I want to remember her and her faith and her testimony, because it's so important. Without hesitation, she said yes. And so I'm glad that I was able to do that today. So
it's such a rough story, and it takes me back too, because I was at work and we were watching this all unfold on the internet on a news feed on people's computers. Oh man. And it was like this. That was the first time I think we had ever heard of a school shooting.
Yeah.
To my knowledge at that point.
Yeah, for this extent. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, nothing like this had ever been done, and it just seemed unfathomable that this would happen at school. And and so many things came out afterwards about, these poor kids being trapped in the library, and teachers not letting them go out the back door, and all these things that people said they did wrong and all this stuff. But we don't talk about what they did right, is when stared in the face with death and horror and fear, they said yes to God and kept that promise.
Yep, without hesitation, man. Good,
because it's easy to keep when everything's going well, right?
Yeah.
When everything's well, praise Jesus, thank you, Lord. But when things go bad, can you still keep your faith? And then in the final moments, she did. Oh my God, really?
Yeah. That's why I was like, I need this. So I was like, I need you to go first, so this could be the last thing that we talk about, because I was like, I can't go through. Like I knew it was.
I don't want any more stories after this one.
So, oh my goodness gracious, yeah. And so, final words, they stick with you, and so
it didn't her thing spawn a whole bunch of it's like a documentary, and I'm trying to think now. It's been a long time since that happened, but I think a lot of things spawned off of her answer there about her and her faith.
There was a book about martyrs that was put out by DC Talk, and there was a whole movement afterwards that it did start basically like a revival. And like I said, like it gave her parents the opportunity to go into schools and to go across the country and just share Jesus.
Yeah.
And so there was a revival that came from her obedience and faith. And so it's a haunting, but it's encouraging to see somebody, especially 17 years old, stand, for Jesus. So it's
Oh, such a sad story. All of these stories are so devastating.
Absolutely.
And
absolutely.
God, I feel like I'm going to throw up now. Huge pit in my stomach. These stories are, they're all real and they're all raw and so sad in all different ways, and just crazy, absolutely crazy stories. But you know what? It's even though they're hard for people to listen to and hard for people to read and watch, I think you owe it to the victims to hear the story.
Exactly.
Even if it makes you uncomfortable, you owe it to them to hear their story, hear their final words, and just
remember them.
and
Yeah.
remember them. Yeah, and remember them. That's a good word. And when you told me the story about they took you to the woods, that gave me full body chills. Like,
Yeah.
thank God I had my sweatshirt on. Yeah, it's just unfathomable things you have to
Yeah.
deal with.
Yeah.
Well, Billy,
Transition. How do we do this?
I don't know. You just transition out, say God bless,
Yep. God
and
bless.
and rest and release and move on. But
Yeah.
if this story moved you guys at all, or you have a similar story, something that touched your life, let's hear your story. They're so important, and we would love to be part of that. And Billy, where can they do that at?
Facebook, type in All the Everything Podcast. Will pop up right there. You'll see us. You can't miss us. Same thing, Instagram, TikTok, YouTube. We are on X, but don't really do X a whole lot, but we're there.
Yeah.
But all the other main places, go check us out. Leave a like, a follow, share, and a review. You could download us wherever you get your podcasts, and on those special ones like Apple and Spotify. Hey, leave us a 5-star review.
Please
write some words if it lets you, or just give us the stars. We would love that. We appreciate that. It means the world to us. You all mean the world to us.
You're all the everything in the podcast.
Right. There you go.
Well, this was I always say another amazing episode. I hope you guys enjoyed the show today and did it in the spirit of we listened to the stories and recognized the people and heard their names and bring back their memory a little bit today. And we can't wait for you to join us next time for another episode of All the Everything Podcast. And I hope you have a great week, everybody.
Bye, y'all.